All right, so we're finishing up Hebrews chapter 12 this morning. We are, actually we're headed toward the end of Hebrews here. We've got the rest of chapter 12 this morning, and then chapter 13 we'll do after a little break here for Palm Sunday and Easter. We'll finish those up as we head into the summer. But we're really getting to the end of Paul's sermon here. It's really just this really long teaching that he has, and he's starting to wrap up some things and help us to he's kind of landing the plane at this point. I don't know if you know anybody who is one of those people that just can't quite land the plane in a conversation, but Paul does a great job of kind of landing the plane. Typically how he lands the plane, though, is he kind of just does this kind of rapid fire thing where he talks about a bunch of stuff. And that's a little bit what he does this morning, but it all kind of surrounds this one idea that you and I are a part of a kingdom of people, a country, a nation of people, not a physical nation, but a spiritual nation of people that are unshakable. Now, if you're here this morning and you've trusted Jesus with your life, you are a part of that nation, and there's some great realities that surround that. But then there's the flip side of the coin, too, that if you haven't trusted Jesus with your life, if he's not your Lord, then you're not a part of this unshakable kingdom, and you're actually a part of a very faulty foundation. And he's going to cover both today. So let's pray, and we'll get into this. Lord, again, just so thankful for the ways that so many people are involved in loving and serving each other here. It's just such a privilege to be a part of a group of people who truly love you and truly love each other and live in community with each other, and just so thankful for the people that you have brought here to be a part of this group. Also, just really thankful for your word and the truths that are found in it. I pray that we would really, truly understand your word this morning, that we would be taught by your Spirit, that you would enlighten our minds to the truths here, and that we would walk away, each one of us walk away standing firmly on the in the truth that we are your people, and that means some pretty amazing things for us now and in the future. I pray this all in your name. Amen. So let's read this together. It says, "For you have not come to a mountain that can be touched, to a blazing fire." Now, just to set some context, this is the middle of a section that he is talking through. The last couple of chapters, we've been talking about this great cloud of witnesses, these amazing people of faith who trusted God, and God was faithful in their lives. And their lives testify to the fact that God is worth us trusting our lives to him. And that even through the difficulties in our lives, which we all experience difficulties, to some to greater degrees, some to less degrees, but we all experience difficulties. We all experience pressures and even persecution in this world, that God is loving us through that. He's actually parenting us through it. He's growing us through it. He never wanted this rough time in our lives. He doesn't put those things into our lives, but he's using those things. He's not going to waste those things. He's going to use those things to teach us what he wants to teach us and to grow us. And then right before this, he gives us encouragement not to walk away from the truth for some momentary satisfaction, like Esau did. He uses the illustration of Esau, who basically sold his whole future away for one meal. Like, that's dumb. Don't do that. And he's saying, you don't do that either. You look at his example and don't do that. Continue to trust God through the difficult things in your life because he is trustworthy. That's what he's hammering on. Just keep trusting, just keep trusting, just keep trusting. He's a little Dory-ish, just keep swimming, just keep trusting. Just keep having faith. God is trustworthy. Just keep trusting. And so he's continuing with these arguments saying, for you have not come to a mountain that can be touched, into a blazing fire, into darkness and gloom and whirlwind, into the blast of a trumpet and the sound of words, which sound was such that those who heard begged no further word be spoken to them, for they could not bear the command. If even a beast touches the mountain, it will be stoned. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I am full of fear and trembling. But you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to the myriads of angels, and to the general assembly and church of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood which speaks better than the blood of Abel. See to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking. For if those did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, much less will we escape who turn away from him who warns from heaven. And his voice shook the earth then, but now he has promised, saying, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heaven. This expression, yet once more, denotes the removing of those things which can be shaken, as of created things, so that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we received a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us show gratitude by which we may offer to God an acceptable service with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. Now, there's a lot of kind of twistiness and sub-clauses and stuff that makes it a little bit hard to read, honestly. To just read through that, it's hard to catch all of what Paul is saying. But when we break it down, it's actually pretty straightforward what he's saying. It's really cool what he's saying, actually. He starts by saying, for you have not come to a mountain that can be touched, and to a blazing fire, and to darkness and gloom and whirlwind, and to the blast of a trumpet and the sound of words, which sound was such that those who heard it begged no further word be spoken to them. He's talking about Mount Sinai. Way back in the Old Testament, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they were headed toward the Promised Land. They took a pit stop at Mount Sinai. This was the place that God gave his covenant. He made his deal with the people. And Paul's talked a lot about this old covenant, this former covenant, and this new covenant that we have in Christ. And so this was the time when that old covenant was given. He's describing it. He goes on, he says, for they could not bear the command. If even a beast touches the mountain, it will be stoned. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I am full of fear and trembling. Imagine this morning if I told you that God was going to come down in physical form, and because he's coming down in physical form, you cannot approach this. He's going to be up on the stage. You cannot approach the stage. In fact, if you touch the stage, you will be killed. And in fact, if you touch the stage and then someone else touches you, they don't even have to touch the stage, but if they touch you, they're going to be killed too. I don't know about you, but I would start backing away from the stage, right? And keeping my kids back. Guys, let's just back up, right? Scary, this thing. This is the picture that he's talking about. It comes out of Exodus 19 through 24, some sections of that. And it might have sounded a little bit like this. Like this sound that's about to come. This is what... Oh, can you click back over, Jeremy? Sorry. This is what it says. On the third day, the Lord will come down from Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set bounds for the people, lines for the people, all around, saying, beware that you do not go up to the mountain, nor touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. whether beast or man, he shall not live. So it came about on the third day, when it was morning, God's coming down, that there was thunder and lightning flashes and thick clouds upon the mountain, and a very loud trumpet sound, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently, huge earthquake. And the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder. Moses spoke, and God answered him back with thunder. Then the Lord said to him, "Go down and come up again, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, or he will break forth upon you." They break this line, I'm going to break them. It actually means to split them in two. All the people perceived the thunder and lightning flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw this, they trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "You speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die." This is the relationship that the people had under the Old Covenant. It was fire and brimstone, scary. I can't cross that line or I might die. That was the relationship. Fear, judgment, distance from God. God's up there, I can't approach him. In fact, I will lose my life if I approach him. I gotta keep my distance. The point on your handout is, our God can be really scary. Our God can be really scary. He can be. And I know some of us are going, wait, this is not my experience. I don't have a scary God. You're right. If he's your Lord, you don't have a scary God. He's scary, but he's not scary for you. He's more like this. The next word is but. But. You have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and the myriads of angels. Don't be scared. You've come to Mount Zion, to the heavenly city of Jerusalem. You are near, you and I, if you follow Jesus with your life, you are near heaven, and heaven is near to you. We share in the privilege of the angels of being able to be in the presence of God. There's no separation. There's intimacy. And we have come to the General Assembly. The General Assembly is a word for people getting together to celebrate something, for a special occasion. It's a party. It's a celebration. It's a holiday. You're a part of that group. Not the scared group, but a part of the group that can rejoice in the intimacy we have with God. We're a part of the church of the firstborn. The firstborn in the Old Testament, they had all of the best benefits. They were the primary inheritors of the family fortune. And we are a church of people who are firstborn. They were firstborn because they were truly firstborn in the family. They were the first one to be born. So they got their inheritance due to their birth order. You and I, we get our inheritance because we've been reborn. We've been rebirthed. We've come to God, the judge of all. Now that might sound scary. Wait, we're coming to the judge. But understand that the two things he's saying here. For one, we've come to God. Remember the Old Testament thing? You couldn't approach the stage. You got to stay far, far away or you might die. No, we get to be in his presence. The presence of the judge of all. And it's not a scary thing. Usually it's a scary thing to go before a judge, even an earthly judge. But for us, it's not scary. Because we've come to the judge of all, but to the spirits of the righteous made perfect. We have nothing to fear from the judge because we've been made perfect. In fact, we're a part of a history of people who have been made perfect, have been made complete, have everything we need to stand before the judge with no concerns, no problem. And to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood, which speaks better than the blood of Abel. From Moses' old deal with God, the former deal with God, to this new deal that Jesus hammered out for us. This is what he's been talking about all of Hebrews. There's this better covenant. There's better promises, a better ministry that Jesus offers to us, a better sacrifice of his own blood, his own better blood, a better salvation than anyone had before Christ, a better hope, a better country, a better nation, a better civilization that we get to be a part of, and a better revelation. He started with that. Jesus, this better revelation. All right, we can kill the pretty sounds. This is better in every way, what you and I have. And he's saying, embrace the new and the improved thing. And this is truly new and improved. I don't know about you, but I get kind of tired of them touting new products as like new and improved. Like the new and improved Tide. I'm like, oh, I get my Tide and I put it in and it washes the laundry just like every other time I put Tide in there. Like there's no change, right? It's like a marketing ploy. No, this is truly new and improved. This new covenant that you and I are under, this new deal that you and I are under is way better and is in stark contrast to what he was just talking about. The point on your handout is there is nothing. I don't know what just happened. Can you hit discard on the screen there? On the screen? The far left button there, yeah. And then just click right there. There it goes. But there is nothing to be afraid of for those who are under the new deal. It doesn't mean that our God has become something different. This is a faulty theology that is out in our world now. That you had the Old Testament God, and he was mean and judgmental and you know was killing people who even got close to him. And now we have a new God, who's the new and improved God, and he's the God of love and peace. And no, we have the same God. This God is scary. His power and his might and his dominion should intimidate us. And for those of us who haven't trusted Jesus with our lives, you should have a healthy fear of this God we have. He's a scary guy. But for you and us who have entrusted our lives to Jesus, there's nothing to be afraid of. Because we're under this new deal in which God has made us complete everything that we need to face this scary judge. And to approach him and to be near to him and to have intimacy with him. Like that idea of intimacy, like that did not exist under the old covenant. They weren't even using words like that to describe God. No. He was scary. He's there. He's other. He's holy, holy, holy. I can't be even close to him, even near to him. I back away. And under this new deal, we get to approach. We get to sit on his lap. Say, God, let me tell you about my day. There's closeness. I don't know about you, but I'm glad to be under the new deal. I'm glad to be under this new contract that we have with God that brings us near to him. that was purchased through the blood of Jesus Christ. We'll be talking about that over the next couple of weeks. Purchased with his blood. It's way better than the blood of Abel, the blood of some animal. This is the Son of God. His blood has secured that for you and I. Nothing for you and I to be afraid of if we are under the new deal. And what Paul's trying to get at here is, why would you ever walk away from this? Why would you ever go back to the scary music when you can have the pretty music? Right? Why would you ever do that? Why would you ever go back to something where you got to face the scary judge all on your own? Don't do that. Which is what he says here in verse 25. He says, see to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking. Well, who's speaking? Well, that came way back at the beginning of Hebrews, right? This is where we started in Hebrews. Hebrews 1:1. God, after he spoke long ago to the fathers in the prophets in many portions, in many ways, God had been revealing himself. He had been speaking throughout history, right? But in these last days, in this last era of time that we live in, post Christ's birth, in these last days, he has spoken to us in his Son. That's who's speaking. God from heaven is speaking through his Son, through the life of his Son, through the death of his Son, through the resurrection of his Son. He's speaking to us. And he says, see to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking. It's really, really important. He's like, I'm speaking to you. God is speaking to you. Every one of us this morning, he is speaking to us. Don't refuse it. Don't ignore it. Why? Well, he tells us why. He says, for if those did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, much less will we escape who turn away from him who warns from heaven. This is him trying to convince us of something. And maybe you don't find his argument convincing, but this is what he's trying to say. He's saying, look at the old covenant. Look at Mount Sinai, where God actually came down in physical form and he warned the people. And he did. He said, you break my covenant, you're busted. And we have evidences all throughout the Old Testament of God coming through on his word on that. You break the covenant, you're going down. And some of it we look at it and we go, man, that's harsh. No, that's part of the deal. The deal was harsh. You walk away, things are not going to go well for you. You walk away from the old covenant, things were not going to go well for you, and they did not go well for people who rejected that deal, that covenant. But he says, how much more, if that's how he treated people when he came down on earth and delivered that warning, how much more is his warning from heaven, sending his Son down, going to should cause you to shake in your boots? We should be quaking in our boots. We should take this thing seriously. His warnings seriously. He's warning us, don't walk away when I'm talking to you. You ever say that to your kids? Don't walk away from me when I'm talking. Get back here. That's what he's saying. Do not walk away from me when I'm talking to you. It will not go well for you if you... That's the threat to our kids, right? You keep walking, you're not going to like the result. God's going, you keep walking. You walk away from this thing. I'm talking to you. You're not going to like the result. Don't do it. He goes on, he says, and his voice shook the earth then, but now he has promised, saying, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heaven. The heavens is everything above the earth. Usually when you see heavens and earth, it's the universe. It's everything. It's both here on earth and everything above us. Yeah, I shook that little area around Sinai. There was that quake going on, right? You know, it was going on. Yeah, that was scary for them. They were all freaked out about it. I'm going to shake the whole universe this time. Take it seriously. The point of your handout is, there is everything to fear for those who ignore his warnings and refuse the Son. There is everything to fear for those who ignore his warnings and refuse the Son. All right, back to some good stuff. He says, yet this expression, yet once more, which he's referring right back to this quote out of Haggai, where he says, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heaven. So he's explaining that here. He says, this expression, yet once more, denotes the removing of the things which can be shaken, as of created things, so that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. He wants to clarify something. God is going to shake apart and destroy the universe. But the universe is not everything. The universe is the created order. He is going to shake the created order. In fact, he's going to destroy everything we know about the created order. He's going to take this universe, he's going to crumple it up, and he's going to toss it away. He's going to destroy it. But there are some things which are not a part of the created order. And those things will never be shaken. Those things, in fact, are unshakable. You cannot destroy them. He's going to explain what those things are. He says, therefore, since we receive a kingdom which cannot be shaken, which cannot be destroyed. And this is that kingdom we talked about. This is that spiritual kingdom that you and I are a part of. If you've trusted your life to Christ, this is true of you. You are a part of a heavenly people, a heavenly kingdom that isn't defined by physical borders, like the Rio Grande or something like that. It's not divided by that. It's divided spiritually. We're a part of this kingdom. And this is a kingdom which cannot be shaken, cannot be destroyed. Every kingdom that has ever existed on the earth, here's a list. These are a list of the top 10 longest running kingdoms on the earth. Okay? Japan is still in existence, so that's still running. But it's the longest, 1,743 years. In the scope of history, that's not very much. But look at these other ones, 847 years, 844, 700, 600. The 10th longest running empire is 422 years, which I think this is a little bit instructive for us as Americans, should be. We think we've got an everlasting kingdom going on here, right? We don't. It will end. But that's not where our trust is. Our faith is not in this country. We live in a pretty great country, but that's not where our trust is. That's not where our faith should be. Our faith should be not in any kingdom like this, but in the kingdom of heaven. These guys all thought they were going to live forever. They all thought their reigns would just continue indefinitely. And every single one of them. In fact, the Roman Empire, if you read much from that period, they thought the Roman Empire is going to rule the world forever. Nope, they crumbled. In fact, they didn't even last as long as many other kingdoms. You and I are part of a kingdom that cannot be shaken, cannot be destroyed. No one can stand against this kingdom. And that's because we have a king who cannot be stood against, who cannot be shaken. And he protects this kingdom that you and I are a part of. So let us show gratitude. Let us show gratitude, by which we may offer to God an acceptable service with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. Let us show gratitude. The word gratitude is actually gracefulness, to show grace, to have a beautiful response to God. Let's have a beautiful response to God. Not a have to, like you better respond right, but no. This is a response that's just a willing response to our God who has entered us into a kingdom that will never, ever end. I don't know about you, but I feel very privileged to be a citizen of that nation. So I have a beautiful response to that. You know, there is a confidence that comes from being a U.S. citizen. I think we all feel that. Like we look at the world and we go, man, I'm proud to be an American, right? I wouldn't want to live in any other nation on the earth. I'm proud to be here. And because of that, for the privilege of being a part of this society, there's just some things that are kind of, I guess we call them duties of being a part of this society. You know, we think ways that we should really respond for the privilege of living here. We should vote, right? It's our duty to vote because it's a privilege to live here. We should take care of our natural resources, our parks, our monuments. You know, when we go hiking, we should take care of those things. We should stand up for each other's liberties because we have great liberty in this nation. We should stand up for those things. We have a duty to do that for each other. When we go to another nation, we should represent our nation well so that people think well of Americans. You know, these are things that are just, do we have to do these things? No, we don't have to do any of these things. But as Americans, we feel kind of a responsibility to do some of those things because we're privileged. And that's what he's getting at here. We are privileged, you and I. We get to serve in truly the greatest country that has ever existed in all creation, or ever will exist, in all of the universe, the greatest kingdom. We get to serve in that kingdom. We get to serve the greatest ruler that has ever ruled anywhere at any time. And for that privilege, we have a duty. So there's not a have to, but it's a beautiful response to God, to respond to his greatness with an acceptable service, which means how he wants us to serve him, responding with that kind of service. That includes a lot of things. And to view him with reverence and awe. Both of those words are they encapsulate kind of jaw-dropping, like, oh, you know, wow. I'm a huge Stephen Curtis Chapman fan. I think he's the greatest musician to ever walk the planet. I love his music. Always have. I think his lyrics are amazingly insightful and just great. I just like him a lot. And I remember some friends of ours in San Diego couldn't go to one of his concerts, and so they gave us their tickets. Melissa and I went to this concert, and they had purchased this thing that probably we would never purchase because I'm at least too tight with money. I'm always like, no, I don't want to spend that little bit of extra. But they spent the money to get this like pre-show interview thing with Stephen Curtis Chapman. So you get this small group of people in a room that was honestly not much bigger than the room we're in right now, and Stephen Curtis Chapman, the Stephen Curtis Chapman, is sitting up on a stool, just sitting up here. It's like, hey guys, you got any questions for me? Like, we're just having a conversation. And he's like, you want me to sing a song? Oh yeah, sing this one. And he's like, oh, he gets his guitar out. It was awesome. There was a sense in that room of awe. Like, that's Stephen Curtis Chapman. I get to ask him a question. He answered my question, you know? There's just a sense of awe there. And honestly, this is Stephen Curtis Chapman, okay? He puts his pants on one leg at a time. I mean, he's a regular guy, right? But there was a sense of awe because of his greatness. Really, within Christian music, there's not many who compare to his greatness. Does Stephen Curtis Chapman hold a candle to our King? We should have a sense of awe about who he is and what he's done, and respond to him that way. That's the beautiful response that we're called to. Offering in our awe for him, an acceptable service to him. And then he says, for our God is a consuming fire. This idea is directly out of Deuteronomy. He's thinking about this passage when he says this. He says, so watch yourselves that you do not forget. This is old covenant, former covenant stuff, that you do not forget the covenant of Yahweh your God, which he made with you. And make for yourselves a graven image in the form of anything against which Yahweh your God has commanded you. Don't do it. For Yahweh your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. This is a threat. That's what it is. Don't do it. Because our God is a consuming fire. Is our God still a consuming fire? Yeah, no, nothing has changed. He is still a consuming fire. And that word actually means this consuming fire, it's all consuming. That means he's a flame, he's a fire that anything it approaches, it burns to nothing. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be contained by anything. It melts, it burns, it obliterates anything it comes in contact with. No one can stand against our God and expect to win. No one. And that God is our king. He's our ruler. That guy who's an all-consuming fire that no one can stand against him. He's our God. He's our king. Yes. He's on our team. Our king and his kingdom, this is the point on your handout, are unstoppable. Truly, that word gets thrown around a lot. Man, that dude's unstoppable. No, he's stoppable. Our God, truly unstoppable. And his kingdom, truly unstoppable. Show your appreciation for being part of it. Have that beautiful response of service to him. I don't know about you, but I just want to look to him and go, what do you want? I'm here. I'm here for you. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? I'm there. Whatever you want. You're amazing. Thank you that I get to be a part of it, what you're doing. Bottom of your handout says, it is a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the living God. It's from Hebrews chapter 10. It is. It's a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of this all-consuming fire. His power and authority is a scary thing and should strike deep fear into the life of someone who chooses to ignore him when he is speaking. He has spoken in the life, death, and resurrection of his Son. Open up your ears. For those of us who have listened to him and handed over our lives in service to our King, we are now part of a spiritual nation of people who have no need to fear anything from our King. We stand perfectly prepared to see him face to face. Let's celebrate that. What are one or two lessons that God is showing you or reminding you of this morning? I'll give you a second if you haven't filled that in to put in one or two words there. Let me pray for us. Lord, we celebrate you this morning. We celebrate being a part of your country, the greatest country on the planet, the greatest country in the universe. You have chosen to allow us to be a part of this unstoppable people. Lord, what a privilege it is to be a part of that. We just want to respond to you in awe. In awe for what you have done for us who don't deserve at all to be a part of this perfected group of people. This group of people that we've been looking at many of their lives and are in awe of their trust in you, of their faith in you, that we get to be a part of the kingdom that they're a part of. What a privilege. What a privilege to be a part of what you're doing in our world, of what you're doing here in Red Bluff, of how your kingdom is moving forward. Thank you for including us in that. We just want to respond rightly to it. Show us how to do that in real life, not just as an idea, but in reality, in our day-to-day lives, to respond properly to your lordship. Thank you for including us in this truly unshakable kingdom. Pray this all in your name.